Hello. Long time no chat here at Jordan's bookshelf. Yeah, we're back from my little hiatus that I've taken. There will be a vlog explaining all of that coming up probably at the end of this month, depending on how my uploads go. But yeah, we're here. Today's video is going to be a reading wrap up from all of the books that I've read since July. I haven't done one in a while. I haven't done one since June. So basically this will be like a Q3, quarter three reading wrap up. So yeah, all the books I read in July, August, and September. I won't have any stats because that's like 3 months worth of stats that I don't have. And I use Goodreads and Fable. I want to switch to Storygraph because I heard that Storygraph gives you a lot more statistics, like books you've read, pages, things like that. So maybe we can do that for wrap up purposes. But for right now, I don't really have many stats besides what I read and what I rated it. So we're gonna get into it. We're not gonna make this intro long. And yeah, missed you guys. So glad to be back. So glad to be talking about books. If you want to, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, leave a little comment down below. Tell me what books you read from July to September if you would like to, or what your favorite book was that you read from July to September. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. We're gonna get into the wrap up, and yeah. Apologies if you can hear the football game in the background. My microphones will not connect to this camera for some reason. So unfortunately, there will probably be some background noise. This camera is pretty good at like canceling out like background sound. So we'll see. But if you do hear the football game in the background, I apologize. Let's get into the wrap up. So the first book I read in July was Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This is a book that I've been wanting to read since I started since I started reading fantasy. This is the book that I have been wanting to read. It's been on my physical TBR. If you know, I actually bought this in paperback originally, but I bought the box set and it came in the hardcovers. So I figured I would go ahead and just get it, especially because Oathbound is not in paperback right now. And I do want to continue the series. You can see it right there. I do want to continue this series. I really did enjoy this book. I gave this a 4.75. I really enjoyed the like spiritual aspects that the book talked about, because not only, oh, if you don't know, this is a King Arthur retelling. Bree is a 16-year-old student who gets basically accepted into this like young, smart, gifted program, kind of pretty much at UNC Chapel Hill, and she infiltrates this society called the Legendborn, and they're basically all descendants of King Arthur and his knights. And so yeah, she infiltrates it because she thinks that they had something to do with her mom's death. Her mom died in a car accident, but she thinks that there was like some foul play pretty much. And so she basically infiltrates this society. But not only that, but she gets to learn more about ancestry and things of that nature. I don't want to spoil anything because I feel like it can very easily become spoilery, telling you things that happen. But this is a really good read and I really enjoyed it. I know people had like a lot of concerns about, for one, her being like one of the only Black characters in the book, or the main characters in the book, but it kind of makes sense because anybody who knows about UNC Chapel Hill knows that that is a predominantly white school. So it kind of made sense that, you know, her best friend was Asian American. I think, was she Asian American, or I don't remember what she was, but she was some sort of like hyphenated American person of color, pretty much. And it made sense that the society she was trying to infiltrate was mostly white because they are descendants of King Arthur. It made sense that her love interests were white because, I mean, she's on a predominantly white campus. And yes, there are Black societies, but that's not the society that she was infiltrating. So it made sense to me, all of that stuff. But you still also get like the touches of ancestry and spirituality and learning different kinds of magic within the book. Obviously, I'm not going to say much because I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like a lot of the things that people had issues with, they just kind of made sense in my mind because, like I said, Chapel Hill is a predominantly white university, so it would make sense that she is surrounded by and falling in love with, you know, white characters. But I really enjoyed this way more than I thought I would, and I think it's because I went into it with low expectations because of all of the controversy around her being the only black character on this campus. Now, I don't know if there are more black characters that are introduced as the series goes on, but I mean, in my opinion, I feel like it all kind of made sense. But this was a really, really good book, and I highly recommend it. If you have not read this yet, I definitely feel like you should. I feel like I should have read it sooner. I mean, as soon as I started reading fantasy, I feel like this should have been something that I read. But I really enjoyed this book, and so I definitely highly recommend it. The next book I read on my Kindle, and I actually was reading this in a reading vlog. I was doing a reading vlog. It never got published, but I did read these in a reading vlog. So I read these actually like close together. I think I read this as soon as I finished Legendborn, but it was Ring Shout by P. Dyalla Clark. This short story was so good. I mean, it was less than 200 pages. It is free on Kindle Unlimited. I honestly want to buy the physical copy. I typically don't buy books that are under 200 pages, but this was so good that it's something that I personally would probably reread. I did read it along with the audiobook. I felt like the voice narrator did a really good job at making like the thrillery aspect of it kind of pop. But I gave this 4 stars, and I feel like the only thing that was missing was I wanted more backstory on certain characters. Like I think her name was Chef. I wanted more backstory on her because she, wait, no, I think I'm getting this confused with another book. Give me a second, let me read my Goodreads thing. Okay, yeah. Chef fought in the war. And during those times, women didn't really fight in the war. And so I felt like I wanted a little bit more backstory as far as like that went. Like, how did she get into the war? What was her life like in the war? Like, I feel like this, if this was like a bigger book, I would have devoured it. What else was I gonna say? Oh, I also wish we could have got more history on the like Ku Kluxes, the demonic thingies. I wish we could have got more backstory on them, like how they even became to be, because we know because of like a certain thing that happens that they can take over other people, but like how did they become to be? And so that's the only thing that I feel like was missing, was just more like backstory. I feel like what we did get was really good. The little bit of like knowledge that I had about the characters and the side characters, it still made me have like a connection with them. And so I felt like when things happened, you know, there was still like some sadness and stuff like that. But it was a really good read, and I really recommend it. And I want to read more by Peter Jelly Clark. I know there's another book out that they wrote that involves a djinn, and I feel like that's going to be a really good read. So I can't wait to read more by them, and I highly recommend Ring Shout if you haven't read it yet. If you've seen Sinners, it definitely puts you in the mindset of Sinners, so I highly recommend it. The next book I read in July was Never Lie by Frida McFadden. My niece told me that I should read this. It was on my physical TBR already, but she read it and she said it was really good. I gave it a 3.5 stars just because, what was this even about? I really don't even remember what this, oh yeah, I do remember what this is about. So, I gave it a 3.5 stars just because I kind of felt like it was not necessarily predictable, because I mean, being predictable is not a bad thing. I just felt like the twist was too far-fetched in my opinion. Like, obviously I'm not going to tell y'all what the twist was, but I felt like it was just a little too far-fetched. But it was still a really good read, and it was really intriguing. And honestly, I feel like it was typical Frida McFadden. I've only read one other book by Frida McFadden, and that was The Coworker. I also enjoyed that. I think I also gave that a 3.5 star. So maybe this one was a 4 star, because I feel like this one was, well, if anything, The Coworker would be a 4 star because that one was a little bit better. But I feel like Never Lie was a really good story, and I feel like the twist, although was a little far-fetched in my opinion, it still made sense. In a way, I feel like obviously she was writing it to convey that maybe it was this one character who done it, but it was the other, like, I don't know how to explain it without being a spoiler, but this was a really good book, and I really enjoyed this. So I think that I do recommend it. Obviously, if you read a lot of mystery thriller, then maybe you wouldn't like it because, you know, you're used to like plot twists and finding out who done it. I feel like it would be easy for you, but I feel like if you're not, like, if you're looking for like an introductory into mystery thriller, I feel like this will be a good go-to, because Frida McFadden's books are very fast paced for one. I think I read this in one sitting, and I read it on my Kindle as well. They're all on Kindle Unlimited, but it's fast paced and it's really enjoyable. So I definitely recommend it. I just realized I didn't tell y'all what this is about. So this basically follows a newlywed couple. They're looking for a house. They're looking for a house, pretty much, and they go to visit this house, and they find that it is the house of this therapist lady who went missing like years ago. And so basically, the story takes place. The woman that's a part of this newlywed couple, she ends up finding um, a bunch of tapes that the therapist will record during the sessions, and they're all like labeled and things like that. And so basically we're getting like the tapes as she's like listening to them, because she's listening to them behind her husband's back, and we're getting like the tapes and things like that, and it basically just unfolds like what led to her disappearance or whatever. And it's really interesting. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, like going back and forth, and you really think that you know who did it, but then you find out who actually did it, and you're like, wait, whoa, that's crazy. And so yeah, I did enjoy this though. And then the last book that I read in July was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This book was so good. I mean, it even starts off like it literally starts off in the thick of it. Like, it's the craziest thing. Like, it really caught me completely off guard that it was so good. I gave this a 4.75. Sorry, I'm looking at my Goodreads. I gave this a 4.75 out of 5 stars. This follows Laya and Elias. Elias is basically in this academy to become I can't remember what they're called. Um, he's a soldier for the Empire. That's all I know. He's a soldier for the Empire, and Laya is basically um just like, she's like a civilian. She basically just lives in the village with her brother and her grandpa and her grandma. And one night, Darren basically gets arrested for treason. Is that what he's arrested for? Yeah, he's arrested for treason. And so Laya basically infiltrates this academy because she wants to save her brother, and her brother is in prison. And so she thinks that infiltrating the Empire will help her rescue her brother. And her and Elias basically have like, I think they have feelings for each other. I'm not 100%, because in this book, I don't think they really visit it. Like, I think there are like hints that maybe they like each other. I don't really remember, if I'm being completely honest. I read this back in July, but I did enjoy this a whole lot. And I remember I had picked this up earlier in the year, and I DNF'd it because I just wasn't in the mood for a fantasy at that point in time. And then when I picked it up again, I just couldn't put it down, like, at all. And so I definitely recommend this if you enjoy trials and infiltration, things like that, secret societies and whatnot, resistance, all that good stuff. So I really enjoyed this book. And the twist, honestly, I really wasn't expecting it, and I'm really wanting to get into book 2. I don't know when I'm going to yet, but I really want to get into book 2 sometime soon, because this was a really good read, and I know book 2 picks up exactly where this one left off. And I also know that when I finish the quartet, that Air by Sabaa Tahir takes place 20 years later from these books. So I'm excited to continue on the journey. The next 2 books I read were on my Kindle. Again, I'm gonna apologize for the background noise. They're just getting louder and louder. The next 2 books I read on my Kindle. The first one was Death Row by Frida McFadden. That came out, it was a part of the Alibis collection through Amazon, I believe. But I gave that a 3.75. That, again, it was good. The twist was good. I really enjoyed it. I'm a little confused on the ending. Obviously, I'm not going to tell y'all because I don't want to spoil it. But I'm a little confused on the ending because I don't know if it's one thing or the other. And obviously, I can't talk about it on here because if you haven't read it, then it will be a spoiler. But I'm not 100% sure on the ending. Like, I don't really know how it ended, and I think that's why I didn't give it the 4 stars that I was originally gonna give it. Is just because I'm still confused on the ending. Like, I don't know if it's one thing or the other, but I gave it a 3.75. This basically follows a woman who is in prison for the murder of her husband or boyfriend, fiance, one or the other. They're a couple. And she's in prison because she murdered him or whatever. Or they're saying she murdered him, but she's saying she didn't. And so, actually, let me find out if that was a spoiler. Okay, yeah, it says it in the thing. She's on death row for murdering her husband, and she's saying she's innocent. And so that's basically what the story follows. It basically follows her in prison as she's trying to appeal her like husband's death, and like she's having flashback memories of like the night in question. And yeah, it was a really good book. I was gonna give it 4 stars originally, but then the ending happened and I was really confused, so I dropped it down to a 3.75. But I think that's more reader error than, actually no, I don't think that's reader error. I really feel like that ending was confusing, so I'm gonna leave it at that. The next book I read again was on my Kindle, and the story is actually called Again by J.L. Seegers. That is a part of the something series. It's a different series apart from the New Haven series, but I can't remember what it's called right now. But it's basically just a group of short stories. And so this is the first one in that group, and it is called Again. This follows Jackson Daniels and Amina. And honestly, when it first started off, it really was giving me Only for the Weak vibes by Natasha Bishop. If you've ever read that, then you know that they go on a vacation and they basically spend like the week falling in love pretty much. And so this kind of gave those same vibes, except in this one, Amina and Jackson were married prior and they got a divorce, and now they're going to Tulum for her sister and his brother to get married. So that's the kind of like iffy part, but that's why it kind of reminded me of Only for the Week, because in Only for the Week, her sister was marrying her ex-boyfriend, but in this one, her sister is marrying her ex-husband's brother. So that's kind of why it kind of gave those vibes, plus the Tulum and being there for a week and all this and that. And so, yeah, it kind of gave those vibes when I first originally started reading it. And so I was kind of off. That kind of like put me off a little bit, because I'm like, oh wow, this is like the exact same book. But the more you read it, the more you're like, okay, never mind, I'm really feeling this. And basically Jackson is spending the time trying to get her to understand that he still wants to be with her. They had like this big misunderstanding, and that is why they ended up divorced in the first place. If you don't like miscommunication, do not read this book, because I mean, they communicate with one another in the sense of trying to work things out, but it took them a minute to get there. It is spicy, so if you don't like smut in your books, do not read this, because it's very descriptive. But I really, really enjoyed it. It was a really good read, and Jackson Daniels that's a good man, Savannah. That was a good man, Savannah. I really enjoyed that mailman character. Him and Amina both were really good characters. And like I said, it's a quick read, so I definitely recommend it. J.L. Seegers is probably one of my top romance authors right now. And I can't wait to continue the New Haven series. I finished the first 2 books, and I'm gonna buy book 3 once I'm off of my book buying ban. So the 3rd book I read in August was Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Zinnemann, and I gave this a 4.25. I gave this a 4.25. This book was really entertaining, and if you have Audible, or if you have like a free trial for Audible, I definitely recommend the audiobooks, because the audio voice narrator, he does such a great job. I mean, he does every single voice for every single character, the side characters, the main characters, not the narrator, the game show host. Like, it's just so good. So this book basically follows, it says, okay, I'm just going to read you the inside. It says, you know what's worse than breaking up with your girlfriend? Being stuck with her prize-winning show cat. And you know what's worse than that? An alien invasion, the destruction of all man-made structures on Earth, and the systemic exploitation of all the survivors for a sadistic intergalactic game show. That's what. Join Coast Guard vet Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, as they try to survive the end of the world, or just get to the next level in a video game like Trap Field Fantasy Dungeon. A dungeon that's actually the set of a reality television show with countless viewers across the galaxy, exploding goblins, magical potions, deadly drug-dealing llamas. This ain't your ordinary game show. This book was so fun and just so entertaining. I read this, well, honestly, I was going to do a 24-hour readathon, so that's why I read it so quickly. But I feel like even if I wasn't doing that, I would have read this quickly, because it was just so easy to like digest. The characters are lovable. Like, Carl is one of those characters that you know he's gonna have so much growth from start to finish. And then Princess Donut is a cat. She talks. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but I'm gonna tell y'all anyway. The cat talks. The cat ends up talking in this book, and she is the funniest, like, lovable character. And I'm already a cat loving person. I'm allergic to them so bad, but Princess Donut is such a lovable, funny character, and she's just like a girly girl. Like, you can just tell if she was a girl, she would be a pink loving, just girly girl. And so she's a prize winning show cat. And so when they go on like the talk show portions of this game show, she's always just like, let me talk. I got this, Carl. And I don't know, it's just so funny and it's so good. And if you play video games, like especially video games that have like achievements and like goal-oriented video games, then you'll really enjoy that aspect of this book. I mean, I enjoyed it. The narrator is so funny. Like, when he does Carl's voice, he sounds like Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove, and it's just so good. It really is a fun time, and so I definitely recommend this if you have not read this. And they also have this short story at the end called The Pineapple Something. Backstage at the Pineapple Cabaret. And it's basically a short story that continues throughout the back of each book. And so when you finish this book, you have that short story at the back. And when you finish book 2, you have the rest of the story at the back. And so I think that's kind of fun as well, because you get like an extra story on top of it. And so, yeah, I highly recommend this if you have not read it yet. It's a fun time. If you're not really into like RPG type stuff, maybe don't pick this up, because it is very heavily influenced by video games. And so I feel like if you don't like that type of style of writing, then you won't enjoy this. But I did enjoy this very much, so I highly recommend it. The next book that I read was Revive Me Part 1, The Act by J.L. Seegers. This is the second book in the New Haven series. And this one follows Mallory and Christopher Johnson. And in this one, we have like a fake dating trope that, well, I don't want to say that because that could potentially be a spoiler, but it's a fake dating trope. And basically, Christopher's dad has his life planned out. He wants him to become a surgeon, but Christopher wants to become like a gynecologist, pretty much. Like he wants to be a labor and delivery doctor. Because of some like a history that his mom had. And basically him and Mallory go to the same college. They're all best friends. If you've read book 1, then you know the story of Sloane and Dominic and the whole her husband passing away. Her husband that passed away in that book is Mallory's twin brother. He is alive in this book because it basically goes back into the college days. And so he is alive in this book. So you get to see him and Sloane and the animosity between Dominic and Sloane, plus Mallory and Chris's story, pretty much. And this is basically just how they met, how they fell apart, and all that good stuff. And so this is a really good book. This was so good. This was so good. Goodreads, it says I gave it a 3.75, but honestly, I would give this a 4-star because it was really good. It was really emotional. I feel like by the end, Mallory's character, I really started to feel for her. Like, I mean, I feel for her literally from page 1 because she's been through a lot, and Chris helps her to like open up, and he understands her and he helps her. And that's why it sucks so bad at how this ended. And it does end on a cliffhanger because the next 2 books in this series follow them. So it's like Revive Me Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. And then it continues on with other characters. But this one is Part 1. And it says it's the act because obviously it's a fake dating trope. And it was so good. It was really good. It does have spice in it. It's not as spicy as Restore Me, but it does have spice in it. And I mean, if you've read her author biography, then you know she literally classifies herself as a smut peddler. And so all of her books are going to have spice in it. But this was a really good read, and I highly recommend it. Like I said, it says I gave it a 3.75, but I would give this a 4-star because I'm rethinking about all my emotions and just how good this read was, and how genuinely like hurt I felt at the end of this book, like especially with it being on a cliffhanger. Yeah, highly recommend it, 4 stars. The last book I read in October, why do I keep saying October? The last book I read in August is Maggie or a Man and a Woman Walk into a Bar by Katie Yee. This is like a literary fiction book. Follows a woman who finds out her husband is having an affair, and they end up in the process of getting a divorce. And not only that, she also finds out that she has breast cancer. And I don't want to say that because that is a spoiler in my opinion, but wait, is it? Okay, yeah, I think that would be considered a spoiler. But yeah, so basically we're in her inner thoughts as she's processing everything that she's going through. I mean, like I said, she has cancer. Well, she just found out she has cancer. She found out her husband was having an affair. Not only was he having an affair, but he's leaving her for said woman. She is a Chinese American woman, and her kids are also obviously Chinese American mixed with white as well. And so yeah, you basically just follow her story with her doubting herself as a mom, her doubting herself as a wife, her doubting herself just in general, and then also having to be strong for said kids. She starts to tell bedtime stories to them that involve Chinese folklore, and it's really such a great read, and it really makes you just kind of think introspectively. Is that the word? Introspectively? Just about like what would I do in this situation? Because I genuinely don't know. Like, not only did you find out that your husband is having an affair, but then you find out you have breast cancer, and then like you're doubting yourself, you're doubting being a mom, you're doubting being a woman, you're doubting being a wife. Like, you're just doubting so much about life, and your life literally is a full 360. Did I say what I gave this book? I rated this book a 3.75. I just honestly, the only thing I didn't like about this is I felt, at first, I think I put in my Goodreads thing that it felt chaotic, but obviously it felt chaotic because her inner monologue, like, these are literally her thoughts as she's having them. So it made sense that it kind of jumped all over the place because these are her thoughts. Like, these are her feelings in these moments. And then we'll jump to another moment and we're on her feelings in that moment too. So it made sense. I gave it a 3.75 because of the ending. I feel like the ending was so abrupt and I have so many questions. Like, where do we go from that point? Like, the way it ended, it just kind of ended, and I just want to know, where do we go from that point? Like, where does she go from all of that, you know? So that was why I gave it a 3.75. I really did enjoy this though, and like I said, it really made me think. You can't really, I don't think you'll be able to see my tabs because they're fairly light colored, but I did tab a lot in this book. She had a lot of great quotes in here, and so I definitely recommend it. If you're like into literary fiction, like I said, I will say there are no chapters. I will, like I said, it is her thoughts. Like, it's literally all over the place. So, I enjoyed it though. I felt like it was chaotic, but it was an organized chaotic, or organized chaos. So yeah, that is this book. Moving into September, some of these books are in reading vlogs, and I will link them down below just in case you want to watch it. But the first book I read in that was on my Kindle, and that was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I gave that 4 stars. That was a really good book. Creepy, unsettling. It was about mushrooms and fungi and a haunted lake, if you will. Not haunted, possessed lake, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but it involved water and fungi. And our main character comes back because her friend wrote her a letter basically saying that her husband is saying she's dying. And so she comes back to visit her to see what's going on, pretty much. And that is the story. Kind of takes place from there. It seems like there's some type of like sickness that is decaying the land. But it was a really good read. It was really quick as well. I honestly think this is another one that I will buy the physical copies of, even though they're less than 100 pages. I mean, less than 200 pages. I think I still want to buy the physical copies just for my shelves. I think the covers are, they're weird, but I like them, and I feel like they will look good on my bookshelf. So I think I am gonna buy them when my book buying ban is up. Maybe for my birthday. We'll see. I'm not completely sure, but I did get that 4 stars, and I really did enjoy that. T. Kingfisher is a new author for me. I do have Hemlock and Silver on my physical TBR, so I'm looking forward to reading that. But yeah, I really did enjoy that. I really did enjoy that read, and I'm looking forward to continuing that series as well. So then the next book that I read in September was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I gave this book 5 stars. Ate it up. This book was so good. So this follows Araya. Is that how you say her name? Yes. This follows Araya and Rain. Rain is a vampire and Araya is a human in a vampire world. Araya was basically an orphan who was adopted by the Nightborn King. Yes, she was adopted by the Nightborn King, who was also a vampire, and he raised her as his own child or whatever. And she enters these trials because she has like a wish that she wants to be granted. If you win the trials, the Queen of Nyaxia will basically, or the Goddess of Nyaxia will basically grant you like a wish or whatever. And so she enters the trials because she has a wish. And I'm not going to tell you what the wish is because I don't feel like that's a spoiler, but I do feel like that's something that maybe you'll want to find out on your own, like be shocked on your own. But we do get into the trials fairly quickly in this book. Like, this book is mostly just the trials and, you know, the ending and all that good stuff, and it wraps that up. So I'm definitely excited to see how book 2 starts and continues and ends, because this series is a set of duologies, and so the second book is the end of their story, and then the third and fourth books continue on with different characters. I do know that they follow a character that I was actually curious about from this book, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, it involves trials, vampires, vampires with wings at that, and they have different kinds of wings. But I really enjoyed this. This was so good, and I feel like the love story was really good. It wasn't like too quick, but it wasn't necessarily slow burn. Um, what else is I gonna say? I really enjoyed Rain's character. Something about a male vampire just does something to me. Something about vampires in general does something to me, but a man vampire, I don't know. I just I love vampires so much. Like if I could be a vampire, I would. But yeah, it's a really good story, and you also get that like aspect of the sorry y'all. You also get the aspect of the vampires, certain vampires questioning like immortality and inhumanity and things like that. And so this was a really good read, and I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it. If you're questioning if you should read it, I think you should heavily. I gave it 5 stars. The next book, and I read this in the same reading vlog. The next book was Kennedy Ryan's Can't Get Enough. And if you have seen that vlog, then you already know that this was slightly a disappointment for me. Just because, I mean, I talked about it a lot in that vlog, so I'm not going to talk about it too much here. But I really felt like that the Hendrix we got in this book was just not the Hendrix that I feel like we got in books 1 and 2. I feel like some of the stuff she was doing was just uncharacteristically like her. I mean, we all know she's like wild, free spirited, and she's Hendrix, but I just feel like a lot of the stuff that was happening was just like kind of all over the place. I also feel like the aspect of girl code, a lot of people were like, she bordered the line, she tiptoed the line. I personally feel like she crossed the line of girl code, in my opinion, just because of her and Zara might not have been besties, but they were work associates. And not only were they work associates, but Zara called her a friend. She invited her to her birthday party, yada, yada, yada. Like, I feel like they might not have been besties, but they were still friends. And I feel like the whole cop out with trying to make Zara the villain by making her say certain things, it just didn't sit right with me. I don't know. I just from the start of the story, I wasn't rooting for them as a couple. Like I enjoy Maverick and I enjoy Hendrix. I wasn't rooting for them as a couple, and I feel like it was just the way that they went about becoming a couple just kind of felt off to me. And I also felt like Maverick just didn't respect Hendrix's boundaries, and that kind of put me off of him a little bit. But yeah, and I know a lot of people don't agree with the whole like girl code thing, like, oh, bump Zare, like Zare's a nobody, yada yada yada. But it wasn't just the fact that yeah, they wanted different things and that's why they broke up. It was more so like the disrespect behind it, but then expecting her to be, just, oh, okay, it is what it is. Like, I don't know. I feel like the fact that Hendrix knew that Zare, and I don't think this is a spoiler because this is in like the first 50 pages, but I feel like the fact that Hendrix knew Zare was still in love with him and they still continued on. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of it was just off-putting and it just didn't sit right with me. And I think that that's what it was. Maybe if I had read this at a different time in life, it wouldn't have bothered me as much. But I felt like with knowing who Hendrix is, I felt like she just deserved, I don't necessarily want to say better because Maverick was a great man. I just feel like she deserved her own love, if that makes sense. Like she didn't deserve a man who just got out of a relationship, who yes, they had different things. I don't really know how to put it into words how the book made me feel, but I just feel like with Before I Let Go and This Could Be Us, they just felt like really good love and good energy. But in this one, it just really just felt like, I don't even know. I really don't know. I didn't enjoy this as much as I enjoyed those two. And so it was kind of sad because Hendrix is my favorite character. And I feel like she represented a lot with womanhood and being a different kind of woman who, a woman that doesn't want kids, a woman that's all about her career and she just wants to make her money and spend money on her friends' kids and things like that. Like, I feel like that was like, that was like the bread and butter of this book. And I also found myself wanting to know more about side characters. Like I didn't care for their love. I wanted to know more about the two characters that were sneaking around in the background. And I wanted to know more about her mom's Alzheimer's and how they were going to deal with that. Like I did not care for Maverick and Hendrix's relationship. I wasn't rooting for them. And I think I fall on the wayside when it comes to that. But I just feel like I just feel like this wasn't Hendrix. This this wasn't Hendrix. I don't know. And I feel like some people would say that it was Hendrix because she's wild, free, happy go lucky, but I feel like this was not Hendrix. I don't feel like this was Hendrix. I don't. But I'm glad it wrapped up the way it did. She got her, well, I mean, we all know how romances end. It ended on a happy, page or whatever. And yeah, we're just gonna leave it. And then the next book I read was also on my Kindle. I went ahead and read the novella in between Serpent and the Wings of Night and Ashes and the Star Cursed King, which is called Six Scorched Roses. All these titles are so long, but I went ahead and I read that and I gave that 5 stars. That was honestly, for that to have been as short as it was so good. I feel like it was a really detailed story and it wrapped up really, really well. And I'm hoping that we see more of those characters, and I think we do. I think we see more of them in the Songbird and the Heart of Stone. I think we see more of them in that book, and so I'm really looking forward to continuing that series because, like I said, this novella was really good, and I'm not one to give novellas 5 stars. Like I might give it a 3.5, a 4 at the most, but a 5. I don't know, but this one was really, really good. And let me tell y'all who it even follows before I continue. This follows Lilith, and I'm gonna read it to y'all. So it says, 6 roses, 6 vials of blood, 6 visits to a vampire who could be her salvation or her damnation. Lilith has been dying since the day she was born, but while she long ago came to terms with her own imminent death, the deaths of everyone she loves is an entirely different matter. As her town slowly withers in the clutches of a mysterious god-cursed illness, she takes matters into her own hands. Desperate to find a cure, Lilith strikes a bargain with the only thing, oh, that's his name, with the only thing the gods hate even more than her village, a vampire, Vale. She offers him 6 roses in exchange for 6 vials of vampire blood, the one hope for her town's salvation. But when what begins as a simple transaction gradually becomes something more, Lilith is faced with the terrifying realization. It's dangerous to wander into the clutches of a vampire, and in a place already suffering a god's wrath, more dangerous still to fall in love with one. So it was really good. I feel like Vale and Lilith's love story, I don't know, it was just really good. And for it to have been as short as it was, I feel like it was still slow burn. Like I feel like it still took its time for them to kind of fall in love and do the nasty and whatnot. Like I feel like it was really good and it wrapped up really well. And so I'm hoping that they continue on in the series and they show up as side characters, hell, even main characters. I really enjoyed their story and I wanted more. Like I really wanted more. But reading it really gave me that 5-star feeling, which is crazy because it was a short story. It was a novella. And so I was shocked when I got done reading it. I was like, wow, this is crazy. 5 stars? 5 stars. It's like 140 pages, but it was really good and I really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend it if you have not read it. Yes. But I'm wondering, since you have to read it before the second book, are they going to show up in the second book? Because I'm pretty sure they are, because the way that Vale was talking, obviously I'm not going to tell y'all what he was talking about because it kind of is a spoiler for book 1, but the way he was talking about having to return home for a certain incident or a certain thing, it makes me think that they're going to be in that second book. So I'm excited to read that because I really hope that they're in it. But I want them to have their own book. Like I want them to have their own 600-page book. Like that's how good I really enjoy their story. And then last but not least, I finally read another Emily Henry book, and that is People We Meet on Vacation. I think I've said it on here before. I'm reading her books in publication order. So this is her second published book after Beach Read. And I enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. I'm not sure which one I enjoyed more. I read Beach Read last year. I either read Beach Read last year or beginning of this. I read it last year. Emily Henry's books kind of give me the Notebook vibes, rom-com vibes, and I really enjoyed this. I feel like this one was more quirkier, more funny in a sense. Poppy and Alex basically take a vacation every summer together. They're best friends, and ever since they were in college 12 years ago, they've taken a vacation together every summer. And so, but something happened one summer, and it's been like 2 years since they've seen each other. And so basically the book takes place with Poppy and Alex finally going on another vacation in the current summer, but also Poppy having flashbacks to the summers prior. So it'll go from this summer to 12 summers ago, this summer to 11 summers ago, and you basically are counting down up until what happened on the summer that they kind of fell out. And so I really enjoyed this. And I know a lot of people were saying that they didn't enjoy that aspect of it with it going back and forth between timelines. But I feel like that it made the story. And I feel like once the movie, is it going to be a movie or a show? I think it's going to be a movie. I feel like once they turn it into a movie, it'll make sense to people. But I personally wasn't confused by it. I feel like it made sense because it's not like it doesn't tell you when the POV is going to switch. Like it literally tells you at the top of each chapter how many summers ago it is. And so when it goes from this summer to 12 summers ago, I'm literally just picturing a younger Poppy and a younger Alex. And then when it goes back to this summer, I'm thinking of an older Poppy and an older Alex. And so I feel like it just made sense in my mind. Like it's not like it doesn't tell you that it's a flashback pretty much. And so I enjoyed it. I feel like it was really good. And I really enjoyed their love story. I just feel like the reason why I gave it 4 stars is I felt like a lot of the things that were happening, I can't say because they're spoilers, but some of the things that were happening, I just felt like were just like, not necessarily cop outs, but it was too good to be true moments. And it was just like, yeah, that just kind of felt like you wrote that in there because you needed this moment to happen, if that makes sense. And so I really enjoyed it though. I enjoyed their banter. Poppy was a great female main character. Alex was a lovable male main character. And it also touches on the topics of a little bit. I won't say that this is like a huge topic, but they do talk about because Alex's brother is a gay man and he's getting married to a man, and that's why they end up spending this summer together because they're going to the wedding. And so we also get to touch on that because Alex grew up in a very religious household, and we learn about his history and, you know, his mom and his dad and all that good stuff. And then we also learn about Poppy and her family and how she's very like eccentric and like just kind of happy-go-lucky and things like that. And so I definitely recommend it though. If you haven't read anything by Emily Henry, I've only read 2 of her books, but so far I'm really enjoying them. Like I said, I gave Beach Read 5 stars and I gave People We Meet 4 stars. And I want to say the next book that I have to read by her is Book Lovers. Yes, it's Book Lovers. And I heard that Book Lovers is for the big sisters out there. I'm not a big sister per se. I have a younger brother, but we do have an older sister who is the oldest of all of us. So I'm a big sister, but I'm also like the middle child. So yeah, but I do recommend this if you haven't read anything by Emily Henry. Like I said, I'm reading them in publication order. So this is the second book that I read by her, but I do recommend it. So that is all for this video. That is all for this video, you guys. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I appreciate you guys for being patient as I took some time for myself to just kind of figure out what I was doing with my life. Like I said, I will have an updated kind of like life vlog coming up at some point in this month, probably at the end of the month, just so I can make sure I get like everything in there that I want to say. But yeah, that is it for this video. Those are all the books that I read from July until now. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you would like, leave a comment down below. If you don't know what to comment, you can just comment, you know, your favorite read of the last couple of months, the last month, whatever you want to comment, whatever makes you feel good about yourself. If you've read any of these books, you can let me know how you felt about them down below. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.